Hello, Jordan.
What's up, Michael?
I'm tired today.
Yeah, you didn't sleep well last night, huh?
I didn't sleep well at all, but that's okay because I just timed this coffee to start sipping on it right in this very moment. And so
perfect.
The How to Become a Personal Trainer podcast audience is going to get my peak hour of today.
Oh, man. How long does it take before that caffeine starts to hit?
Placebo already hit. Placebo
Once you smell
is
it.
in
Once
my
you
veins.
Smell it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How are you?
That's what happens with when I got to poop. As soon as I smell coffee, boom.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
We had a conversation about an hour ago around the subject of poop that I said, let's not podcast about poop. That doesn't make for good podcast content. You're like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then in the first 45 seconds, Jordan goes right back to it. So we may as well. Jordan was taking his dog on a walk today, and his dog ate horse poop.
It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
We'll spare you the details, but that's what happened. But he's got the immune system of
a dog. He's a dog.
He is. All right, so I have a concept here that could be very entertaining or it could be awful. But if it's awful, we can pivot.
I bet it'll be good.
I just asked ChatGPT, please list 20 questions that would make for amazing content on a fitness podcast. And I have, this is probably terrible prompting because I have no experience with this, but let's see if some of these questions are decent.
Let's do it.
Are you using, other than like gathering information for debates, are you using, are you using any of these AI chatbot tools for your business or content creation at all?
Was this a question from ChatGPT? Or?
Nope. It was just a prelude to my idea.
I was like, wow, ChatGPT is really like pushing the use of ChatGPT, right?
What would really be good is if I did that and then I just made up questions the whole podcast. But no, this was out of my brain.
use it all day, every day. Constantly. I'm constantly using ChatGPT. It's like
Do you pay for it?
I think so. It's one of those things where I think I have a subscription for like $10 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you don't pay for it, then you have a certain number of searches that you get per month or something.
Okay.
So I got tired of waiting for the next day. So yeah, I'm almost positive I got a subscription to it, and it's so worth it. Oh my gosh. And the other day I was like, let me just Google this and see like what Googling does.
Mm-hmm.
And it already, after less than a year of using ChatGPT, I'm like, oh, Googling is so old. Like, you have to go down, you got to find the article, you got to skim through the article, where it's like you could literally just ChatGPT it, and it will tell you everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
For example, yesterday my urine had a slight pinkish hue, and I was
beet juice.
It was beets. I didn't have beet juice, but I had beets. And I was like,
you don't need ChatGPT. You just need to.
You need Mike GPT.
I can just imagine you being like, "Oh my gosh, what's
going on?" Do you get pink pee from your beet juice?
Very slight. If I have a lot of beet juice, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Same.
The one thing I was telling you that I still don't like, and maybe I'm just being a doomsday guy here, assuming that we are moving into a place where people are going to trust AI chatbots as gospel. What I like about Google is source verification and being able to get multiple answers from multiple sources. And what was the example I gave you? Like back in the day, I remember Googling fitness questions, and what's that website called? Or I guess it's his name, Mercola. Yeah, I remember because that was the
Joseph Mercola, I think it was.
That was like I don't even know what today's example of that would be, but a lot of non-evidence-based, not great fitness information. And I remember, Mercola says this, but Lyle McDonald says this, and being able to use who the information was coming from in making my decision about the answer to a question.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it's a fair critique. The issue is people would read one of Mercola's articles and be like, well, that's it. I believe what he says, right? People would read like one of like Robert Lustig's articles and be like, oh, that's it. Sugar's bad for you. Mm-hmm. So you still get it. I think the cool thing about ChatGPT, and this is where people are going to need to become critical thinkers, as always. They've always needed to be. But one thing you can do is you can really engage in a discussion with ChatGPT. And I'm not saying it's perfect at all. It's not. There are real flaws that I've exposed on even just like little bits on my end. But you can ask ChatGPT to steel man its own argument or your argument. Mm-hmm. And so you could be like, well, tell me what the other side would say. So you might have to prompt it. But I've tried saying like, hey, I've tried something where like, hey, tell me this is true when it's a blatant lie, and it won't. But that being said, who controls what's true and what's not? Like
that's also about information that you already know.
That I already know. Exactly. Correct.
Which is not what most people are going to be using it for.
Correct. I think the real major issue stems from who's controlling what it says is correct. Mm-hmm. That's the scary part for me. Now, mm-hmm. Google has been able to do that from the perspective of they can put any information they don't want on page 57 and no one will go to that page, right? So information always has the ability to be suppressed. The issue now is you're actually speaking with this, what you believe to be is all knowing, all accurate. So you get more easy to access information that could potentially be wrong.
Yeah, I suppose if you use it as a tool, knowing that it's not going to be 100% accurate,
But most people don't do that. I think most people just say like, well, this is true, and that's it.
All right, we'll see what it spit out here for us.
You probably could have said some interesting questions like specifically for the How to Become a Personal Trainer podcast.
I did that. I did a few of them, and those were like...
Bad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just the most basic personal trainer questions.
Got it.
You know, it might, honestly, some people might actually like them. It could just be...
we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. You know, what are the basic qualifications needed to become a personal trainer? How can someone decide which certification program is right for them?
All of our listeners know those answers anyway.
Give me a prompt you like.
Just tell ChatGPT. In that instance, I'd be like, these are terrible questions.
Dude, I am so respectful to this AI thing because in my lifetime, it's going to be coming for us.
I literally say, I'll be like, you suck. Like, you didn't listen to a word I said. But then if it gives me a really good response, I'll be like, thank you so much. So I balance it out.
Okay. All right. So you'll be spared. How important is nutrition in achieving fitness goals? Like,
it's a terrible question.
What are the benefits of mixing cardio with strength training and how should they be incorporated?
That's a slightly better question.
What role does mental health play in physical fitness and how can exercise improve mental well-being? I would imagine what's bad about these is the broadness and vagueness, which is caused by my vague prompt.
You should be like, give me some controversial questions.
Can I please...
Oh man, what did you say? Give me
controversial questions. For a guy who's high in fear, Jord, I feel like you're afraid of the wrong things.
I feel like you're afraid of the wrong things. You're afraid of chatbots, which is not what you should be scared. That's not the most imminent threat. We've spoken about this on the podcast before. Chatbots are not
running
the most
out of money
threat.
Isn't the most imminent threat. Imminent
threat.
It
is much more close.
No,
it's not. Chatbot attack.
It's definitely not. All right, controversial questions. Is the fitness industry misleading consumers with unrealistic body standards, especially through the promotion of perfect physiques?
That's a pretty good question.
Is the no pain, no gain mentality actually harmful to long-term fitness and health?
I like that one because we might have I like that one. Because I feel like we've gotten too soft. I feel like we've gotten too far to the you never should have any type of pain whatsoever. Like, any type of pain is bad. Any type of discomfort is bad. You should, and I'm guilty of this because I hedge too much on the safety side. So like even in my content, if I'm making content around lifting, I'm like, you don't want to like, push past discomfort. But I only say that because I don't want someone to do it and not have like a good gauge of their own body and what's right and what's not, and then push past, then get injured, and then they fucking sue me. You know, where like where I actually think realistically you do in some points have to push past discomfort. There are times where it's important to push through some pain and understand the different types of pain. And yeah, so I do think that no pain, no gain, how it was when we were kids, when we were in like the early 2000s, late 90s, like that, I don't think that was very productive. But I also don't think it's the extreme opposite end where it's gone to now, where it's like just feel no pain ever, always be comfortable, just go to the spa, be pampered, don't push yourself. You don't ever need to be sore. Even the whole like soreness isn't a good indicator of progress, which I've said for years. I still believe soreness is not an indicator of progress. But at the same time, if you never get sore from working out, that is a very good indicator to me that you're not pushing yourself hard enough to actually make progress.
Yeah. Well said. I agree with the general pendulum swing too far in the direction away from, I guess pain is the word we're using here, but pain, discomfort, difficulty might almost be a better word. It's also important to understand when you're in positions where you could really hurt yourself, or you're in positions where some pain is okay, or higher levels of discomfort are okay. You know, if I'm doing, if I have like a nagging shoulder issue, me just being a random person, not me, and let's say on my dumbbell bench press, even my warm-up reps are causing like, there's pain where you're going really heavy and like this is very difficult and you need to push through it. But if you have extreme pain using a very light weight, something's probably wrong. And the correct answer isn't like, I'm just going to proceed normally with my workout here and just quote unquote push through this pain. The pain of the last few very difficult reps is different from ignoring an injury and pushing through and being a bonehead and making something worse.
I also feel like there's this chronic avoidance of anything that could potentially cause an injury, where it's like people are so worried about doing anything that could potentially cause an injury that I think, number one, I think this could, and this is like fully, I can't prove this, but right, like that old that thing that we did years ago where like we have no scientific evidence, but I believe this.
Yep.
So we know, and we can prove this, that pain is not just based on something physiologically wrong. Like pain there are mental, emotional, psychological aspects of pain. There's so many aspects of it that are mental. And I think that if you're chronically trying to avoid pain, I actually think you're more likely to feel pain. And if you're chronically trying to avoid an injury, I think you're more likely to think that you've got an injury. Right? Like if you're like, oh my gosh, if I go to this range of motion, I'm going to get injured. And then all of a sudden you like oh my God, I think I'm injured. And then you can literally create pain and create this feeling of an injury. And I think this chronic avoidance of ever going into any range of motion that could potentially cause pain or injury or doing certain movements, I think it's not good. Now, we also have to understand what population we're working with and what their goals are. I think in the same way that with money and with investing, when you're younger, you can be riskier. Same thing with fitness and with movement. When you're younger, you can be riskier with what you do, I think. Especially if your goals are more performance-based and more like trying to achieve higher levels of athleticism and do more extreme things. As you get older, the amount of risk that you should put into your training should diminish significantly. Like, there's no reason to be risking extreme ranges of motion. There's no reason to be risking extremes, especially when you just want to feel good. You don't want to be injured. You don't want to be risking this stuff. But at the same time, there is, I think, the chronic avoidance of doing anything that could risk injury is actually going to hinder you long term.
Yeah. And this advice needs to be completely tailored to where someone is with their training and their mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who are not training hard enough, many out of fear of injury. And that's great advice for those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people like David Lade, who's a big time fitness guy, someone who comes to mind who, when he was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I mean, I think he deadlifted like 700, under 200 pounds, like super heavy squat, benched. I don't know if he got up to 400-pound bench, but now his lumbar spine and one or both of his shoulders have been wrecked for like, it's been years and years of very light training and constant physical therapy. So that population is in the minority of the I take everything to the extreme, but this advice needs to be tailored to.
He was also on a lot of drugs, right?
I don't believe he has ever publicly stated that.
Got it. But you think he was?
I like him. I'm a fan. Yes.
It's not a bad thing, but just realistically, was probably on a bunch of drugs too.
Correct.
Which then allows you to push more and more and more, which then, wreaks havoc on your body. Yeah. Makes sense. That was a good one. I think that's an interesting topic. And that is, like you just said, it is so individual. There's no one size fits all answer here because someone's going to push too hard. Someone's going to not push hard enough. Someone's goals are just to be mobile and move well and someone else's goals are to really achieve higher levels of athleticism and performance. And if your goals are really achieve higher levels of athleticism and performance, injuries are part of it. There's no way around it. If you're really training hard, you're going to get injured. That just happens.
I think there's also something to be said about the stage you're at in your training career. People who have been lifting weights for a very long time often know their bodies quite well and know like, all right, this isn't a movement pattern that I do great going heavy on. Like this exercise versus this exercise, even though they train the same muscle, this one feels significantly worse. And so trusting that intuition and knowledge you've built over your training career is a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't thought about that. I never conventional deadlift heavy because it has never felt good on my back ever. Sumo deadlift, fine. I can RDL conventional stance heavy, but from the floor, conventional deadlifts, no, not worth it. I know for my body, it just feels horrible.
Yeah. Could be anatomy, could be many things, but yeah.
Don't say technique. It's not my conventional technique is good.
That's crazy that's where your mind went.
I don't know what else it could be. Maybe psychology.
That was something in your brain, which is still part of you, and not everyone needs to do every exercise. Yeah, that's important too.
That's actually really
don't say technique.
Don't say technique.
I was coming
bro.
after his technique on the podcast. You have wonderful technique. Yeah. Does the focus on aesthetics in the fitness industry undermine the true purpose of exercise, health, and longevity?
Does the focus on aesthetics undermine the true purpose of health and fitness? Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's the same answer as the previous one. For the competitive bodybuilding world, absolutely. For the health at every size world, nope. Aesthetics would lead to better health.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, why is it not funny when I take shots at the bodybuilders, but when I take shots at health at every size,
it's just like so politically incorrect that it's actually hilarious.
Got it. I'm not in those circles anymore. So,
well, health at every size doesn't even exist anymore. It's like you don't see it anywhere. We spoke about this, but ever since GLP-1s took over, it doesn't exist.
Which means it never actually existed. It was a lie to begin with.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people who are hyper focused on losing those last 10 pounds or looking like they did when they were a senior in high school or fitting into that bikini from 20 years ago, I think that the hyper focus on aesthetics is harming their ability to have great long-term physical and mental health. Yes. For people who have are further back for people, I guess, who have more weight to lose, you could say. Or here's what I'm trying to say. I have seen aesthetics be a motivator for some people to make a lot of progress that simultaneously, like while making them look better, also made them much healthier physically and mentally. So when it becomes obsessive, like it is on magazine covers, and I mentioned bodybuilding and a lot of the fitness industry, it can definitely take away from the true purpose of fitness, but it can also be beneficial to focus on aesthetics.
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to what's going to motivate the individual. And if we're looking at that health at every size population, someone who's 200 pounds overweight, if aesthetics is a motivator for them to get healthy, great. Awesome. Like if it's going to make you feel more confident, if it's going to get you in a better physical, mental, and emotional state, like that, seeing you drop pant sizes, liking what you see in the mirror better, the motivation of being able to wear a swimsuit and be more confident in that, like, great, that's awesome. I do think that the way that the fitness industry thrives on never mind like we'll call it, we could go all the way from the genetic elite, like in terms of physique, all the way down to secret steroid use, all the way to Photoshop and all of that. I do think that the unrealistic expectations of what a normal healthy body looks like is actually way more harmful for literally everybody. Not only for the people who are consuming the content, but equally harmful for the people who are actually making that content. The people who are the people who are those models. People don't really think about it. I mean, imagine being one of those models, right? And genetic elite in terms of physique, and you're also using performance enhancing drugs and all this stuff, and they're doing all this lighting, and they're misting you with oil and all this stuff. And then you look at the pictures and you see they photoshopped stuff out, and you're like, I wasn't good enough. Like, you had to Photoshop it. Like, that's not actually how I looked that day. And so then
that wouldn't hurt my feelings.
It depends what they photoshopped.
I don't think so.
I think it maybe not you. I think for a lot of people it would make them feel bad.
Okay.
I also think the expectation of when people see that picture, then they feel like I have to look like this all the time.
Yes.
And then so it's like, if I don't look like this all the time, then I'm going to be looked at as like a failure.
Yes.
That places a huge amount of stress and anxiety on them.
For sure.
So
that and the unrealistic expectation for everybody else.
Exactly.
Are both extremely bad things. I agree.
Yeah. But I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to change how you look. I think for some people, it's an awesome motivator. And realistically, I don't know a single person.
Realistically, every person who's ever signed up for either the Inner Circle, my one-on-one coaching, anything, have at least had look better.
Correct.
As some percentage of their goal.
Every single person.
Yes.
Every single person. Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
So it's almost like a corruption of the word aesthetics. If we were to take aesthetics to mean a healthy body fat percentage, a maintainable physique and body fat percentage, maintainable while being able to enjoy your life and not be suffering and starving constantly. Like, it's almost as if placing a physique competitor or someone on stage as the pinnacle of aesthetics is what is harmful in this situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you seen the posting Hollywood physiques from 25 or 30 years ago compared to today?
Is this a trend on social media?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it.
No, I haven't seen that. I would imagine they look completely different.
Yeah, just that they were like people. Can you believe people used to think this was a great physique type of stuff when it is?
Yeah, and it is a great physique. Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't realize that about, especially Hollywood, how many actors are on steroids and performance enhancing drugs in order to achieve, like both men and women, in order to achieve those physiques. I mean,
well, and now the
it's
surgeries
crazy. And surgeries. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
well, have you seen the Kardashian like pre and post face surgeries side by
No.
side?
No.
Google it right now.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Wow, they actually changed their faces.
The punchline here for me is what having improper expectations does to somebody who's trying to make similar types of progress as someone who's had the surgeries or been on the performance enhancing drugs, or they're not even real pictures, they're Photoshop pictures.
Dude, I saw this reel within the last 72 hours. I see way too many reels in a day. I don't even know. It's so bad. It was like POV. You check into your hotel in Istanbul, Turkey, and the guy taking the video, he shows everybody in like the lobby and dining area of this hotel in Istanbul, Turkey, and it's all dudes who just had hair transplant surgeries, and their heads look like they have shrapnel in them. All the dudes look like their heads just got ripped open, and it just looked everybody. The entire hotel lobby is dudes that just had hair transplant surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's wild. It's absolutely wild how people, and it's for men and women. They will spend fortunes, travel across the world in order to change how their natural God-given body looks.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. And then I saw a horrible one the other day of this lifter who got height surgery.
Oh,
he leg lengthening surgery
in the shins, right? That's where they do it.
Yeah, they break your shins, and he wasn't even short. I think he was like 6'1" or 6'2", and he went up to like, yeah, dude. He was at least like 5'10" or 5'11". He was pretty tall.
And doesn't it add less than an inch?
No, it added like I think 4 to 6 inches.
No way.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 centimeters.
No. It was significant. It was significant.
How do you recalibrate like your mechanics when you add? So all 4 to 6 inches are between your knee and your ankle?
I don't know if there's shin and femur. I don't know how it works, but they break his bone, they add to it, but he had a horrible side effect where his feet they curled in. So like his toes, they all curl in now. And so all the muscles, the intrinsic muscles on the bottom of his feet got so tight that now his feet are like hands, and they like crunched in. So like he has to do physical therapy. He can't extend his toes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like, and he was, it's
very sad.
It's so sad. And it's so sad. And like, he's like documenting his journey of occupational therapy to like try and open up his feet now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's awful. It's devastating.
Yeah. We're not criticizing people who
it's almost like sad.
Yeah. The people who undergo these, look, we're all free to make our own choices, but it's almost like people are a victim to the culture that they live in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's an obsession with youth or and if that has like some kind of, I don't know, like Brian Johnson type of immortal type of like whether it's conscious or unconscious, if that's at play.
I think it's just obsessive wanting to be attractive.
But like, now I might not be the best at judging dudes, but if I think of like a 55 or let's call it like a 55-year-old Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a guy who's dude. Like good looking dude.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the hair transplant, like what hairline is like the thing, right?
Yeah. Or that British dude, that British guy, like who's like same movie style as Bruce Willis. I forget his name.
Liam. Taken.
Oh no, not Liam Neeson. There's like a skinny dude who I forget his name, but it's similar Bruce Willis style. Like, yeah.
And let's say what are other things that like this
Height.
attractiveness youth like? Well, height, that's a new one. These height surgeries are, but like skin, right? Because for decades,
Oh yeah.
plastic surgery around wrinkles and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I don't know what else guys do.
Did they get pec implants?
Well, that's less. Yes, they do.
The synthol, I mean, steroids, anabolic steroids, like abusing anabolic steroids.
Correct. But my point being, I don't think that they become more attractive when they do these things.
Well, yeah, of course you don't. I mean,
Are you getting what I'm saying or no? That's why I feel like it's not about attractiveness, because they're not getting better looking.
They're not trying to get you to think they're more attractive.
No, Okay, so are you saying that objectively they are getting better looking and I just don't have the eye for it?
No, objectively, no. And in fact, I think when someone finds out that they've had that surgery, it is objectively less attractive.
I got another example for you. If I see, this always confused me, if I see like a 75-year-old dude with jet black hair, I would always get so like hair dyeing is one for men that goes further back. I would always get so confused because growing up, I just thought, honestly, subconsciously, this is so bad, but I thought they were like dying, like they maybe had cancer or like, because I assumed they were young because of their hair. It never occurred to me they might be dyeing their hair, but the way they looked, because they looked so old, I was like, oh no, like that person like is maybe really sick.
Horribly.
Yeah. But really, it's just someone who started dyeing their hair and then.
Well, here's what I think. I think that listen, I mean, we could even use tanning, right? Tanning as one. Let's look at this example of a very common
like
phrase. Tanning beds, or even spray tans, but tanning beds, doing whatever to change how you look in order to fit what. And I hate like society or culture, but whatever we're told is attractive. There's a very common phrase: tall, dark, and handsome. That's like the phrase that, generally speaking, is used as what women find attractive. Okay, so if you're shorter, or I mean, dude, in women's dating profiles, very often they'll be like, if you're less than 5'10" or if you're under 6 feet, don't even message me. All the time. Like I would see that. The first question I would get when I was dating on dating apps: how tall are you? How tall are you? It was the first thing. So if you're told all the time that is not attractive, then it's like, okay, so I'll do this height. Or if you're told it's like, I hear girls all the time be like, I don't like bald guys. I don't like bald guys. So you're told that, okay, being bald isn't attractive, being short isn't attractive, that you're supposed to be darker, so that being darker is supposed to be more attractive. Then all of a sudden, you're going to start doing things to try and fit into this mold, even though there are many people, many women who don't necessarily find those things attractive, that those aren't a requirement. You're told all the time through movies, through magazines, through social media, through what people say, through certain people's actions, that's what's attractive. So you'll pay for these surgeries and you'll pay for these treatments, even though just being more confident in who you currently are would objectively be more attractive. But I think it's very difficult for people to come to that realization.
What do you think the outcome is that someone who's taking all these things to the max is looking for?
I think they're looking for people I think it's the same thing why people get really expensive watches and really expensive cars.
Okay.
They're looking for people to be impressed with them. I think they're looking for people to say, wow, that's so cool. Wow, you're so awesome. I think they're looking for that approval is what they're looking for. They're looking for people to be really impressed with what they have, which is why we see people who often don't have as much money buying these really expensive watches, and people who do have a lot of money and know they have a lot of money often driving Toyotas and not being showy because they don't need to show it. They don't need to prove it. Like they know what they have. Whereas the people who often, it's called peacocking, as you know, it's like they'll make it appear as though they have something so that they can get the approval or so they can look a certain way when they're not actually that way.
Whose approval? Because I understand it in the context of like a guy who's dating. I can put myself back into that mindset, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine whose approval you gain by going from 5'7" to 5'9", or whose approval you gain by like, being a guy who's in his 30s and like losing his hairline, but then gets a hair transplant and like moves his hairline up an inch. Is it like,
I think you
is it
underestimate
for
how
bettering?
insecure some people are, just in general. They want everybody's approval.
But what I'm saying is, do the people actually, and this might be me having a fundamental misunderstanding of the consensus around these attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Do strangers think more highly of someone who has a different hairline, or who has less wrinkles, or who?
I think there are. Number one, I think some people do, for sure. I think some people do. And I think that the loud voices that we hear on media, on social media and whatever, would make it appear as though more people do than they actually do. I don't think most people really care about it. But I do think that there are loud voices that would make it appear that way. For sure.
Cool. Good discussion.
I remember I was like, should I tell this story? I've never told this story. When I was in college, and it was my freshman year, and I hated freshman year was like the worst year of my life. I went into one of the dining halls, and I was waiting in line. I think it was at Chick-fil-A to get like something at Chick-fil-A or wherever it was in one of the dining halls. And I'm standing in line behind this girl, and she's pretty tall. And she looks down at me, and then she goes back to her phone, and she's tweeting. And you know how some people will just like tweet their whole day? Mm-hmm. Like whatever it is they're doing, just like everything they do, they tweet. I don't know if she didn't know that I could see what she was tweeting, but like I could see her phone. And I don't know, like I wasn't like sneaking it, like I could see it, but she was like, got a damn midget standing behind me. Like type of it, like, and so it's one of those things where it's like, it's not like I wanted to date her. It wasn't like I was seeking her specific approval. But I think if someone is bald, or if someone is short, or if someone is fat, or if someone is this, they see these things happening more than someone who doesn't have that. So then that insecurity builds up, which then leads to wanting to be perceived in a certain way, or to not have that insecurity anymore. So it might even be like less about what other people think and more just about trying to eliminate that insecurity as a whole, which is about what other people think, but they've just had enough of that insecurity that they're like, I'm done. So that's when they're willing to pay for that type of stuff and
that
go
makes
through
sense. Even if it's 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 people, you come in contact with a lot of people in your life. And so for the person, you're having that interaction often. I bet that fueled some great content creation, some great lifts, some great like I bet you stayed up all night reading bodyrecomposition.com. I bet you were just like, I'm gonna show them.
Yeah, bro, for sure.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, man. I literally hadn't thought about that until this moment.
Should we be calling out fitness professionals who promote dangerous or extreme fitness practices for the sake of a quick fix?
It's a good question. It's a really tough question because on one hand, I think yes, we should. I think on the other hand, who decides what's dangerous? Where's the line of like, all right, this is dangerous versus this is just a difference in opinion. I also think that if you're going to go after someone for doing that, you should go after their ideas, not them as a human. It shouldn't be like an ad hominem attack, which I do see all the time. And I also don't think it should make up all or even close to the majority of your content. I think it should be relatively rare, intermittent. If you find that the majority of your content is you talking about what other people are saying, and I think it's lazy. I don't think it looks good. I don't think it looks good for you. I don't think it's a good way to build a business on the backs of other people trying to tear what they're saying down. you can use that as fuel for what you can say, like come up with great content. But I think it should be a relatively rare thing where you use someone else's content to speak poorly about what they're saying. I do it, and I do it occasionally, but I don't think it should be something that you do all the time. But if it's dangerous, yeah, for sure.
Great answer.
Like, I've spoken about how dangerous I think carnivore is numerous times, and only a couple of those times I've even mentioned someone like Paul Saladino. I haven't. I've only used him in my content, I think, once, maybe twice. And one of the times it was to discuss when he admitted that he's not actually carnivore. But I've discussed the dangers of carnivore way more times without him than I have with him. And, it would be easier just to take something stupid that he said. But yeah, I don't think it's a good look. It's sort of like Gary says, there are two ways to build the biggest building. You either build the biggest building or you tear all the other buildings down. I don't think making a habit of tearing all the other buildings down is a good strategy for business, for your mental health, for your soul, for everyone else's mental health and everyone else's soul. I don't think it's a good idea.
I'm with you. Does the push for healthy snack foods in the fitness industry lead to a false sense of security when it comes to nutrition?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, there's a little bit of an over-reliance on packaged, processed, newer in like the terms of human history, quote unquote, healthy foods. And we can throw something like protein bars in here. We can throw, all kinds of like packaged health bars or, TV dinner, like lean cuisine, health, quote unquote, healthy TV dinner type meals.
Oh, lean cuisine was so bad back in the day. My parents had, it was so bad.
As a replacement for whole foods, as a replacement for, have a piece of fruit as a snack compared to a fruit snack that is made with sugar cane instead of high fructose corn syrup, and it's an organic fruit snack. And so you can have that instead. Yeah, I think for some people, there's an over-reliance on, that's what my YouTube series, Equals and Alternatives, back in the day was about.
Oh, wow. It's a real original content.
10 years ago. Actually, yeah, 10 years and 2 months ago it started. January 2015. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
10 years and 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that just made me feel super old.
Brother, COVID started 5 years ago.
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. But I remember I did 100 episodes on YouTube where it was just to bring attention to, because at that time, fewer people were focused on the calories and macronutrients in foods. And I would look at something like this organic granola that I would see someone in Gary's office, pouring all this granola on their yogurt. Like, that's 4 servings of granola. That stuff's like 9 fat, 160 calories per serving. Like, I don't think you realize that's 700 calories of granola. And then a week later, I see them in the break room and they're like, how do the scale's just not going down. And so reviewing things that are promoted as healthy, but very calorically dense, and comparing them to something else. Like, okay, this is, you could be having 3 Snickers bars or 3.5 Snickers bars for this number of calories.
Gary loves that Snickers bar analogy.
Yeah. 240. And then giving an alternative, like, instead of this, maybe have this option or maybe have this option.
Man, to think all you had to do is turn Equals and Alternatives into an infographic. That's all you had to do.
Yeah, that worked well on Instagram.
Literally taking your idea and putting it in an infographic was the most viral type of content in fitness industry history.
Good, because I that makes me happy. Think of all the people who I learned from, who like Lyle, Martin, Alan, all these guys, and just consuming their free content and then packaging it differently with a little different spin and maybe adding my own personal experience and ideas, and whoosh, We all stand on the shoulders of giants, Jordan.
Man, I think going back to snacks, I think snacks are like the most overrated health tool. I think they're like snacks are actually harming way more people than helping.
When you say snack, do you mean food that is consumed outside of mealtime?
Yeah.
Or do you mean that? Okay.
Yeah. And granted, apples, almonds, a Greek yogurt, that technically might go into a snack category, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm really talking about the package marketed as health food snacks.
Mm.
With that being said, I also think that people rely too much on snacks and not enough on big meals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'll have an apple as a snack and I'll have a Greek yogurt as a snack, but having a big meal so that you're really, really full several times a day is much better than having smaller meals and relying on snacks when you never end up getting full. Because that's how you end up eating way too much at night before bed, because you haven't been full the whole day.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who over snack, and that leads and undereat at mealtime, which leads to a lot of total calories and prevents them from making progress.
Mm-hmm.
How many reels do you think you consume a day?
Way too many.
Give me a number.
How many, like start to finish reels?
No. Start. How many reels do you start?
How many reels do I start? Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Probably 200.
Okay. I think it's higher.
You think it's higher than 200?
I was thinking 300. And then when you said, how many do I start? I think it went up to 500.
No, I don't think it's that many.
Oh, then you're fine.
I mean, I might be wrong. I wish there was a way to track that. I wish they had that metric, like how many reels did you start today?
That would be incredible. That would lead to way less time on app. That would not be good for these platforms. It'd be great for the consumers. I sent you something a few days back there was some study around working memory in people who are scrolling versus people who aren't scrolling.
Oh, really?
Took a group of people and had them take 8 weeks off of scrolling social media or being on social media, I think in general. And their working memory skyrocketed.
That makes a lot of sense.
I saw another reel that was all about how incredible the year 2016 was.
Was it a great year?
I don't know. What do you think?
When I hear 2016, for me, that was a really good year. Like, that was the year I found out I was going to coach Gary, moved to New York, and started that. It was a tough year. It was tough, but it was also, there's a lot of great stuff that happened. But in terms of culturally, I don't feel like that was a great year, because my brain goes to, I feel like that's when cancel culture really started to take a huge upturn. And
interesting that that's your perspective.
Why? You don't think that's correct?
I thought 17 is when it started to rip.
So it wasn't 2016. That was like before it really started to go nuts.
I mean, that was Trump was elected in November of 16, and the build up to the 16 election was nothing like the build up to the 20 or the 24 elections.
Correct.
I don't know. Maybe it was just the reel in the comments and the nostalgia.
It was after he was elected because it got so divisive. Mm-hmm. It got really divisive.
January 17, he was inaugurated, and then 17 to 19 is that's the cancel culture, and then 2020 obviously was crazy. But
yeah, that was nuts.
14 to 16 felt like a different era to me.
14 definitely. 14, yeah, it was just a different time. Mm-hmm. When did I think I got a smartphone in 2014.
Oh, really?
The first time I got a smart. Yeah, I used to get made fun of because I still had a flip phone. I was like, I don't want a smartphone. I don't want it. I think 2014 is when 2013 or 2014 is when I got a smartphone for the first time. It was a very different time.
Probably better.
Realistically, I think it was, in terms of overall the health of everybody as a whole. Yeah.
It felt like our collective attention was placed in better places than it is today.
Where do you think collectively people put it now? just in things that they can't actually, like just useless worry over things that they're not actually having an impact over.
Definitely. And a lot of outrage, the way that social media apps have changed over that time period, and the type of content that gets more attention, a greater focus on rage bait and, whether it's political or not rage bait online. Yeah. And I try to pick apart how much is just my personal experience versus how much is something that everyone is experiencing.
You know what's interesting about the collective focus of the at least the, I'm not going to say the world, but generally, especially here in the U.S., and especially among people who use social media. It's funny. One of my new neighbors, he was telling me he doesn't have social media. He just seems so calm.
How old is he?
Late 30s. He's about your age. I think he's about your, he just doesn't have social media. He was like, what does he do? He said he works for PNC Bank. And I was like, do you like it? He's like, nope.
Investment banking?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what he does, but he doesn't like it. But he was like, yeah, my wife has social media. I don't need it. I was like, man, good for you. He was just so calm. He was so calm. Now, the argument that people make is, well, I want to be informed about what's going on. And I get it. But there's a line where it's like, how much of this information let's just assume everything you're seeing is correct. We're just going to completely assume you're not seeing anything that's tailored. You're not seeing anything that is potentially propaganda. Let's just assume everything you see is 100% accurate. All the atrocities, there is no other nuance to it. There's no other side. Every take that you see is 100% correct. At what point does you knowing about it help you or help them, the people who need the help? Are you donating to causes that are helping all of these people? Like, are the action steps that you're taking because you know about it actively helping every single time you see or hear about these atrocities? Because we're not designed to handle this. We're not designed to know about every single horrible thing that happens, and we're not seeing every single horrible thing, but we're seeing a lot more than we would otherwise. So we're not designed to be able to handle it. At what point does it actually negatively affect you so much that it's negatively affecting other people, because now it's preventing you from being able to be more positive and helpful and productive with where you are in this moment in time?
Potentially immediately.
Yeah.
The answer might be at 1 minute of consumption a day, the negative effects begin, and they just get worse the more that you consume. Like they're, and not to mention there's ways of being informed that are more headline reading and don't involve getting sucked into addictive social media apps. But yeah, I'm fully with you there. Not to mention just the fear of all the worst things in the world happening, many of which have always been happening, and many of those have been happening on a far greater scale. So things have been way worse for all of human history. We just didn't know about it.
Correct.
Technology didn't exist. Like even in the 90s, you got local news. You really weren't, you weren't seeing pictures of kids getting blown up in a different part of the world, right?
Correct.
Or even on not on the geopolitical level, but on the, a Ring camera of someone trying to break into your house, or these like little micro things that they wouldn't be in your face constantly. And we as humans largely don't have the ability to understand statistics and big numbers. It's like, you don't know what
I definitely don't.
People don't know what 1 out of 2 million houses being broken into on an XYZ basis means. Like that, it's hard to calibrate that on a fear level.
Especially when you see a video of that happening to someone's house.
Yeah. Have you seen the thing where Gen Z doesn't believe in statistics because everything's 50-50?
No. What the fuck?
It's like these kids are making the argument to their parents. It's like, well, no, someone can either break in or they're not going to break
gosh.
in. There's a 50-50 chance. It's like, no. This happens one in this many. It's like, it's 50-50. They're either going to do it or they're not. So it's 50-50. Yeah, man, I think you make a really good point about, look, one of my best friends in the whole world, Bear, I don't think he has Instagram.
He's doing it right.
He's never had Instagram.
He's got 5 daughters. No social media.
Yeah,
he's living right.
He's a beast. He's a beast. And he is calm. Like, he displays the attributes, it sounds like, that your neighbor has.
Yeah. So much less stressed.
Yeah.
In 2014 era. So much less stressed.
Yes. And I wonder how much of that we can cultivate in this current time.
I think we've got to get rid of social media.
Like you and me, or like the world?
Everybody.
Good luck.
I do. I think we do, because everything here's how it works. Okay, so life is more convenient. Dude, I get more like, I've been going to the grocery store more frequently, even though we can have it delivered at no extra cost. Like, we can do that. We can have it delivered, or we can. Nope, I'm going to the grocery store, because when I'm grocery shopping, I can't be on my phone. I can't be looking at social media. And if I was just having it delivered, what would I be doing? Well, there's the potential to be working. There's the potential to be playing with my daughters. And there's also the potential to be sitting on the couch or at the kitchen table looking at social media. And if you're opening on social media, what's going to come onto your phone is the things that are getting the most engagement, which are usually the things that are the most fear-inducing, the most shocking, because that's how the algorithm works. So instead of calmly going to the grocery store and picking up food for my family, I'm sitting at my fucking kitchen table worried because something is happening somewhere else outside of where I am that I have no control over. It's like, nope, I'm going to the fucking grocery store and I'm going to go check out and see which apples are better. And then I'm going to see the most stress I'm going to have at the grocery store is seeing someone who sneezed into their hand and then going through all the apples. And like, that's really going to be annoying to me. But like, that's the most stressed versus seeing something horrific on social media. Yeah, we need to get rid of it. We need to eliminate it.
Look, you're preaching to the choir on this one.
We need to eliminate it.
I'm surprised I'm hearing this from you.
I'm contributing to the problem.
So am I.
No, you're not.
I'm making this podcast.
You don't post.
We're putting the reels up.
Podcasts don't count as social media. There's no it's completely different. Podcast doesn't count. There's no interaction with other people. It's purely listening. There's no comments. It's hard to go viral. There's no virality really in I guess in a video podcast in clips, but not in like a 3-hour long podcast, you know? I think the only viral podcast I've really ever seen was Rogan and Trump. Like that was like the only, bless you, that was like the only viral podcast I've seen because everyone wanted to hear what they were going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely right in terms of short versus long form social media. This is a great discussion. We got to wrap here because we have a mentorship Q&A in 5 minutes. So thank you very much for listening. Please leave a 5-star review. If you've listened to 5 episodes of the How to Become a Personal Trainer podcast, you haven't left a 5-star review, please leave one right now. That is my, it's not even an ask. I'm telling you, the listener, similar to how Jordan talks to ChatGPT, leave a 5-star review.
Just fucking leave a review. 5 stars. We love you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Just
we'll be
fucking
back next week. Weekly uploads every week of the year, except for the last week of the year. But maybe we'll go 52 this year.
Maybe we'll go 52 this year.
We went 51 in 2024. We went 51 in 2023.
Before that, not good.
It's a new era.
We got serious. All right. Leave a review, please. Do it. Please.
See you next week.